So would you breathe with me, please? Taking a deep breath. And one more. And one final breath. Thank you. As always, thank you for that. So, today is New Member Sunday. I'm so excited about that. We have 25 people who are joining the center today, who are joining our first community. I'm excited to be part of our Sangha. Do you know the word Sangha? I love this phrase. It's a Sanskrit word. It's usually attributed to Buddhist teaching, but we are a Sangha, a community of people who have attained at least the first stage of awakening. So we're a Sangha. You're at least in the first stage of awakening, except for those of you who are yawning as soon as I start talking. And also an association, assembly, company, or community with common goals, vision, and purpose. We are a Sangha. And what that means is that there's something about this community, there's something about this Sangha that spoke to these 25 people and caused them to publicly declare, I believe in this teaching, I like these people, I like how I feel when I am here, and I want to be a part of it. So you're going to have a chance to meet them in just a little bit, but not quite yet, because, you know, I have to talk about stuff first before we do that, right? And I want to tell you, I share with this so many times that when I go away on trips, I have epiphanies. I have epiphanies at home too, but when I'm out in nature, I have epiphanies. So I want to share with you one of the epiphanies that I had at my recent trip to California to see the desert wildflowers. Now I'm about to show you a picture here. I did not take this picture, but it is a picture of Borrego Springs, which is near San Diego. And I went down this past April so that I could see what was being characterized as the super bloom in desert wildflowers. So let me explain to you why it's a super bloom, and then explain to you why I talk about it, because I actually talk about it fairly often. It's a very cool spiritual idea. So California's been in this terrible drought, right, for quite a number of years, and yet this past winter, they had a ton of rain and a ton of wind, which results in a ton of desert wildflowers. And the explanation for why this happens is just amazing. So listen to this. The wildflower seeds, which sometimes can be little tiny little things, the wildflower seeds are covered by what is known as a no-growth enzyme. What that means is they will not blossom, they will not take root until the conditions to support them are just right. So normally what happens is there's not enough weather in the desert to knock the seeds around, which then knocks off the no-growth enzyme. So what usually happens in the summertime or in the spring is that those seeds lie dormant. Are you following me? Okay. But with this winter, like they had this last time, an unusual amount of rain, a lot of wind and everything, what happened was the seeds got knocked around and the no-growth enzyme got knocked off. And the seeds were then able to take root and blossom like you can see in this picture. How cool is that? You would think that there is almost an intelligence at work in the universe that would figure something like that out. And the reason why it fascinates me so, excuse me, is because it also replicates spiritual growth for many of us. Because I have found in my life, now this may not be true in your life, but it's true in my life, that it takes a little bit of jostling, and it takes a little bit of being forced out of my comfort zone in order to shake off my own personal no-growth enzymes and encourage growth. Anybody else? Yeah. It usually, what happens is spiritual growth and personal growth seldom happen when we are complacent. But the opposite is also true, is that spiritual growth and the jostling that happens usually happens when we are complacent. Does that make sense? We don't grow when we're complacent, but then things start shaking up because we are complacent, and then we grow. Yes? Yes? Okay, let me share with you what Ernest Holmes had to say about that. He said, nature will not let us stay in any one place for too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and the advancement of the soul. Nature will not let us stay in one place for too long. So if you happen to be going through a jostling period in your life right now, instead of cursing it, which if you know me on Facebook, you know I do that a lot, but instead of cursing the jostling period, maybe what would serve us better is to ask the question, what is the experience I am supposed to learn here for the advancement of my soul? So think about something that may be going on in your life right now. What is the experience that I need to learn for the advancement of my soul? And then when you receive the answer, stay with that question, and then when you receive the answer, do whatever is necessary to learn that lesson so that you can move on from the experience. Yes? Yes. I love this quote by Anai Nin, who said that and the time came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom. Raise your hand if you've ever been there. Raise your hand if you're there now. Yeah. So that brings me back to my recent trip to Southern California to see the desert wildflowers. Now, the place we went, Joshua Tree National Park, somebody just went to Joshua Tree. Who was it besides me?
I was there a few years ago.
Okay, I'm talking weeks, not months. That person must not be here. They must have gone back to Joshua Tree. Anyway, so this field of flowers, this kind of flowers was pretty much done by the time I got there, and I was kind of freaking out, right? Because when my trip was not planned until April, and I'm hearing about the super bloom in like March, and I'm like, I'm going to miss it, and I missed this stuff. However, what I did see were the cactus, which were in full bloom, right? It was the most incredible sight. I got to tell you about this particular one. We're driving through Joshua Tree, which is brown and rocky, right? And then all of a sudden, I saw that. This profusion of bloom right there in the middle of the desert. And it was this kind of red-orange, or it was pink, or it was yellow, or it was orange. It was a veritable feast for the eyes. But what was weird about it, and brings me to my main point for today's talk, was that some of the cactus had these profuse blooms like this, right? And some of them only had a few blooms. And some of them didn't have any blooms at all. They had the buds, but they hadn't popped yet. And it didn't appear to be a question of condition, and like one got more sun or one got more water or anything like that. It really did appear to be some sort of a random selection as to which cactus was blooming fully and which hadn't started yet. So as often happens when I go to these places with my sister Beth, who is my muse, we start talking about why this is. Why is it that the cactus is blooming in profusion here, and then just a couple feet later would be another one that hadn't started to bloom at all? Why? What is that? And the answer that we came up with was that once again we live in an intelligent and orderly universe, and that nature knows what she is doing. Because Because, now think about this. I'm about to make my point. Not with drinking water, but I want to have a... I'm taking it with me. Amy, I must have gotten your dry throat somehow. Okay, so, back to the point here. Okay, let me find my place. Okay, if all the cactus bloomed at the same time, there wouldn't be enough resources right there in the desert, such as water and nutrients and the bees to harvest the flower to support them all. Are you with me? If they bloomed all at once, they would not be able to flourish for very long because there isn't enough to go around in the desert. Now we know universally there is enough to go around, right? There's enough of everything to go around, but Mother Nature recognizes that in the desert, water is not that plentiful, that the insects are not that plentiful. So Mother Nature knows what she's doing in saying, okay, yes, you bloom. Okay, no, you stay down. Okay, yes, you bloom. That type of thing. Yes? How cool is that? Is that an analogy or what? So, plus, you know, we just go on these trips sometimes and we get these downloads, right? So, if all of the plants bloomed at the same time in this explosion of growth, then the other beings, the insects and the animals, and the other plants that rely on those flowers for their survival would have a feast and then a famine. If everything bloomed at once, they would be like, and then there would be nothing left. So it's much more intelligent. It's much better that the blossoming time be spread out over the weeks and the months so that everything has the opportunity to thrive and to express and to expand. This is intelligence at work. And this intelligence knows what it is doing. John Muir, who is a naturalist, said this: nature is ever at work, building and pulling down, creating and destroying, keeping everything whirling and flowing, allowing no rest but in rhythmical motion, chasing everything in endless song out of one beautiful form into another. You like it when I go on vacation, don't you? So, this is a picture, incidentally, of a yucca tree there in Joshua Tree. I took that with my iPhone. And it's pretty. And it's pretty to look at these pictures. And it's nice to quote John Muir, one of my favorites. But what does that have to do with today? Well, for one thing, yesterday was Earth Day. Woohoo! Yes, yes. The day when we acknowledge and we express our gratitude for our Mother Earth. What better way to do that than to spend our time talking about Earth's intelligence and beauty? However, that was just a happy coincidence, because I had already been planning on talking about this epiphany that I had for New Member Sunday, because once again there is a very interesting spiritual lesson for all of us to learn in this story about the cactus blooming at different times. And that is this idea that each one of us is growing and blossoming at our own pace, in our own way, in our own time. I mean, if you really think about it, how many of you are in exactly the same place spiritually as anyone else you know? Right? Right? You may have the same basic belief, and you may have even experienced similar ahas or insights with someone in your life. But how you have grown from having that insight and how that it has influenced how you see the world and how you interact with the world is unique to you just as it is unique to them. I have countless times had couples in my classes, for instance. You know, might be spouses, or they might be parent and child, siblings. And even though they are all learning the same thing, they are interpreting and they are processing that information in different ways, thereby using it in their lives in different ways. Am I right? Am I right? Yes. Those of you who have taken classes with anybody that you know. And another thing that can happen is that once you've found this teaching, which is allowing you to grow and to blossom in wonderful, wonderful ways, but maybe you have someone else in your life who is simply not interested, doesn't share your view, has their own way of looking at things that is contrary to yours. Anybody? Anybody have those people in your life? Yeah, you bet. Well, this is where the analogy of the cactus blooming at different times in different ways comes into play. Because when we understand that not everybody is blossoming under the same circumstances that we are, and we are okay with that, then we can let go of the judgments and the fear and the frustration and the guilt that we have because we are doing things differently than other people. For instance, when I first came into this teaching, 1988, and my family thought it was just another one of the schemes that Pat was up to, you know. I did a few of those, okay? Oh, here she goes again. But after a while, because this one stuck for me, and so after a while, as I began to grow and blossom, they started asking questions. And they started becoming interested in what it was that I was doing. And you know, I never forced it. I never proselytized. I never begged. I never preached. I simply lived the teaching and began to blossom into my true self. And I didn't expect them to blossom or to bloom in the same way that I did or under the same circumstances. All I could do was bloom in my own way and allow them the space to blossom, to bloom in their way, in their time. And to this day, two of my most proudest accomplishments or proudest moments was when my sister Beth became a practitioner of this teaching and has blossomed in her own right, absolutely. And when my brother, the uber scientist, asked me to perform his daughter's weddings. Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to share this analogy with you today is because it's New Mentor Sunday, and we have 25 people who, for their reasons, for in their own timing, have decided to plant themselves and bloom in our cactus garden. I'm so grateful that they have chosen to do that. So what I'm going to do, I know several people emailed me that they weren't able to be here today, but as I call your name, what I'm going to ask you to do is come up and line up here at the stage. So are you ready? Neil Butler, Sandra Butler, Vernon Chase, Darlene Schneider Chase, Susan Chatain, Connie Chow, Debbie Colasurdo, Joe Colasurdo, Tracy Etwell, Anton Gall, Tom Hadley, Sarah Hahn, Julia Hall, Joanna Lockwood, Vicki Lockwood, Howard Parsons, Ronnie Segal, Karen Sifton, Jenny Smith, Mahala Smith, Gerald Stern, Tina Vanderkameel, Fran Watson, and Molly Waleski. Give them a hand. Give them a hand.
afraid to die before I was supposed to be here.
You know, I'm usually really good at this. I was relying on someone else's list, and that's all I'm going to say. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give them a hand. So now, yes. So now we're going to have audience participation. Please take place in person. I know, that's what I was thinking. Joe just whispered to me the good news is there's actually 28 new members. I know. I don't know why you all were not on there, and I apologize, and I'm so happy to see you. Yay. So what we are handing out now is the pledge of new members. Now you all are going to read this to our community, and then they're going to make a pledge to you. Okay, so new members, or existing members, I would like you to take this into your hearts, what they are about to say. So are you all ready? I will read it with you. You ready? Here we go. We promise to be the best members of the Calvary Center for Spiritual Living that we can possibly be. We promise to support this center and this ministry with our time, talent, and treasures. We promise to live our lives by the principles of science of mind to the best of our abilities, knowing that God is at the essence of each of us. We also promise to love you, respect you, and always look for the good in each of you. Thank you for welcoming us into your hearts. But wait, there's more. So I would like the members and friends of the center to please stand up. That's you all. And we are going to say a pledge to them, which you guys already know, right? No, I'm kidding, here it is. Okay, so you all, even though they're going to be reading it, they are saying it to you. Okay? So y'all ready for this? Here we go. We, the members and friends of the Calvary Center for Spiritual Living, honor your decision to become part of our spiritual community. Knowing that God is at the essence of each of us, we promise to love you, respect you, and always look for the good in you. Thank you for adding your lives to ours. Welcome home to our cactus garden. Thank you all. You may be seated. And because we have just a couple of moments, if you are so inclined and you would like to say something to the community, or you can pass, just pass me.
I just really wanted a little spiritual family for my son and myself, so I'm really happy. I've been coming here for quite a while, but it's really for me for my son.
Yes, thank you.
I've been coming on and off to the spiritual church for quite a few years, but one of the promises I've made to myself is to get deeper into knowing and to be surrounded by like-minded people and to thrive. Thank you.
We're going to hold our applause to the end, and then we're going to let it loose. How about that? Okay.
So I found the church in 2013 and then came sporadically, but in the last 5 months consistently. But it's nice to be in a place where what you were taught actually is real and it's not like those bad things. So very happy to be here.
Well, I'm back after many years. If I was a cactus, I was blooming 20 years ago, and now I'm blooming again. I'm glad to be with like-minded cactuses.
a spiritual path for the last 10 years. And, I'm doing very deep working within. My mission is to be in service, in healing in natural way for every disease. The root cause of every disease, it's been revealed to me what it is. And that is my path. In a very special time that we live, we need more healers and more spiritual teachers.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you.
Wow. My feelings want to talk for an hour. My heart is really beating the first time I came to Dr. Afton's teachings in 1978 in Calgary. And I spent the next 10 years with Dr. Arlene Bump, becoming a minister. And I left Pat here in 1988.
Wow, Darlene, that's amazing.
And founded a center in Port Coquitlam, Port Moody area. For 20 years. It was a wonderful work there, and I'm sure some of you may know some people from there and here. And a shock to me that my cactus was going to come this way. I had made no plans for that until we got stuck in our wonderful marriage. I met Vern 10 years ago.
Did you just say stuck? Get stuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we couldn't find any place to live that was suitable in Cologne or Vernon, where we had been for the last 10 years. And one day somebody gave me a message that said, "Oh my God, we're looking in the wrong place. We're supposed to go to Calgary."
I'm so glad you did. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you. Just pass on to...
So as you can see, we have this wonderful stuck marriage. I'd rather be stuck here than anywhere else I've been. I've been part of this teaching since '82, co-founder of the Kelowna Center, was on the board of that center, and so excited to be here to start new in life and business, and just seeing wonderful people around me. Because I took a path outside of this for a few years, and I was trying to teach this and where I was, and they weren't listening, so I came back.
All right, I've talked to the microphone for a while. Anyway, long story short, I've been looking for a spiritualism that fit and resonated with me for a long time now. And was back, I think, in like 2012. I was in Vancouver in a hotel room by myself, and I turned the TV on, and PBS came on, and Dwayne Dyer was on there. And so we started talking, and I just felt like, okay, well, you know, this really makes sense to me. This is what speaks to my heart. So, and then I